the financial forecast summary. We're going to spend some time now unpacking a financial forecast. As we've described before, a financial forecast is a forward-looking budget of how you'll make and spend your money. It's the basic document that every startup must have. As a simple structural rule, many people believe it's best to build it month-wise for 36 months with annual summaries on a separate column. Others want to see you have 1 year by month, which is the budget, 2 years by quarter, which would be considered the forecast, and then 2 more years by year, which we call a projection. That gives you a total of 5 years of forward-looking financials, understanding that that's pretty far out and it's hard to predict. As I discussed earlier, I like to think of the first year as the budget you're going to operate on, and the rest is the financial forecast and projection. I'm going to try to give you an overview of what is a pretty complicated process. So you have something to start with, but you'll need to plan to do a lot more work to understand all of this and develop your own financial forecast. Don't feel discouraged if after you hear this for the first time you don't get it all or you're not still confused. It's a lot. You can view this again and take notes if possible. You can watch this with your advisor. Take some time and really get underneath this so you understand this, because it's not just what you present to your investor, it's what you're developing for yourself and your team and what you're going to become your operating model. Keep in mind, there's also resources and templates attached to this module for you to look at and to use. So let's see how we can build this in a few simple steps. Let's start with a financial summary. This is kind of what you're going to get at the end, what you're going to show investors. Then we'll break down the components. Your summary should show on one page the following: your revenue, your expenses, and your net income. It's broken down by category. First is revenue, but actually even before revenue, you're generally going to have at least one line that has the number of customers. This lets me as an investor understand the revenue that's going to follow on a customer by customer basis, or unit economics. On the revenue line, I should see gross revenue built for each period, month, quarter, or year. Next is the cost of delivering the revenue, or COGS, cost of goods. Now's your first bold net line. This is called your gross margin. This is the amount of money you have to work with to get to profitability. This much gross margin minus your costs equals your net margin, what you make. Remember, you're looking at the summary financial model. Later we'll break down each element of the summary in detailed sheets. So the first piece that one typically starts with is what's called the revenue sheet. That'll funnel up to the revenue lines. We'll tackle this in detail once we understand the overview financial forecast. Now let's briefly talk about expenses that you see in a summary forecast. Expenses include the following sort of big element categories. There's a lot combined in them. It starts with team. What are the employee or personnel costs? What are the salaries? What are the benefits for employees? Next is the cost of what we call office overhead, rent, telephone, travel and entertainment, etc. This is summarized as what we call office and administration. Next is the cost of marketing and sales. Lastly is the cost of engineering and R&D. Now you have the total operating costs of the business below those lines. These are very broad headings covering a lot of detail. Again, we'll go into the breakdown of that detail later, and that detail has to be available. It has to be a bottoms-up approach. For now, just know that the detailed sheets will be linked and summarized in the summary sheet you see here. Next on the financial summary, you get the net operating margin. This is how much money you net from revenue minus COGS, or gross margin, minus operating, marketing expenses, engineering, and other expenses. It's your net margin minus your costs. This isn't the end yet. This isn't your profit. You still have to include your amortized costs of capitalized things like equipment and add taxes to get to your profit.